At 7:48 p.m., inside the lodge at Pine Loop, I hit the spacebar, and the room heard our HOA president in her own voice, cool as a winter faucet, say, "Legal fees don't matter. We make it back on the liens." 40 heads turned toward Tracy Hargrove, and the smile she wears like a badge finally slid. A deputy shifted by the soda machine, and I thought, if justice has a sound, it's the tiny click right before the truth plays. I'm Evan Reed, not a crusader, just a project manager who color codes, grocery lists, and still forgets the chips. Jenna's my wife. Former paralegal turned research sniper, Maddie's 7, and thinks her driveway hoop is a national treasure. We moved to Cedar Ridge Meadows for the sidewalks and the sunscreen. Smell by the pool. You know what I mean? The kind of neighborhood where you wave to people you don't actually know, but pretend you do. My first find showed up at 6:12 a.m. Neon envelope under my windshield wiper. $75 for overnight driveway horking. A curfew for cars. I paid it because sometimes you pay a small, silly thing to protect the big. Good thing you love, then. Came the knock at 6:02 a.m. Tracy in a red blazer and pearls, holding a clipboard like a weapon. Portable basketball hoops are unapproved permanent structures, she said, pointing at Maddie's portable hoop like it had a rap sheet. $250 sign here. Non-compliant. Means non-compliant. She liked that phrase so much. She said it twice, and yeah, that happened. I walked the neighborhood that night with my phone and a legal pad, like a lost meter maid, and counted 8 hoops and 5 cars glistening with dawn dew. Snapped time-stamped photos. Printed them until the magenta ran out. Emailed, the board got auto-replies. That sounded cheerful enough to be a prank. Went to the meeting and said the quiet words out loud. Selective enforcement. Tracy tapped her gavel like people tap a fish tank to watch something flinch. That's not on the agenda. 2 board members nodded like dashboard toys. Only one person didn't look away. A quiet man with wire rims aim tag, said W. Pritchard eyes on the numbers, not on me, but I noticed him notice. The notice of intent to lien landed the following Monday. Stacked fees and something called administrative assessments. Shoved us to $1.80. I laid the letter on our kitchen table. Jenna didn't blink fast or raise her voice. She tied her hair. Slid the crayons aside, opened the laptop, and said, if this is about rules, we'll read them. If it's about money, we'll follow it. We turned the guest room into a war room. Whiteboard, banker boxes, folders labeled bylaws and budgets, and minutes that read like the ghost of meetings. And still, I hoped it was a misunderstanding. A human error in a machine made of habits. Then the trash truck rolled past our can. On purpose, Tracy sent a blast email that said, "Consequences motivate compliance," which is a sentence people only say when they've stopped hearing themselves. I filmed the bypass filed. It kept my head down and my notes up late that night. Jenna circled a swollen line item. Consulting. CR Community Partners, LLC. Almost a third of the budget pie. Sounds official. If you don't ask what it does, looks like a tunnel. If you do, registered agent at a POB. Box 2 towns over, manager listed as Mitchell Landry. And in a 2019 backyard photo she found. If you clicked exactly right, there's Mitchell with his arm around Tracy caption. Calling him my favorite cousin, who always fixes things. You can help family. If it's your money, not mine, you can't hide it, and let the pool look like Mountain Dew in August. I knocked on Walt Pritchard's garage door Saturday at 8:17 a.m. His socket wrenches lined up like a piano. I can't talk to homeowners with pending issues, he said, voice low, like the bylaws were standing behind me. I'm not here about my hoop, I told him. I'm here about the 30% and invoices that never match the scope numbers. Itch, don't they? He stared at the concrete and said, She'll make your life harder if I help. She already is, I said. I placed a tiny recorder in his palm, legal in our state. If you're part of the conversation. He hesitated, like it might bite, then slid it into his shirt pocket, as if pockets were invented for conscience. That was the day the story bent. On Thursday, at 10:03 p.m., our house went dark, while the street stayed lit when one had flipped our main breaker by hand. When I stepped onto the porch, a shoulder came out of the dark, slammed me into the rail. No words, just the meat of a man and the smell of cigarettes. I swung the flashlight like a bat connected with an arm. He bolted into. Shadows, police cruised. Slow took a report. Shrugged that maybe it was random, sure, and I was born yesterday. We installed cameras next morning, porch, driveway, side yard, little red LEDs that keep watching. Even when you forget they do. Walt wore the recorder to the closed session, and we cleaned the audio until the sentence sat there, like a confession. Legal fees don't matter. We make it back on the liens. You don't swing at a queen on her square with a hunch. You do it with a petition and signatures and bylaws that say, Section 3, 5C forces. A special meeting when 10% ask, knocking doors is where you learn what fear costs and what it saves. The first 5 neighbors spoke soft on their porches like, Tracy might be hiding in the hedges, I have kids. Evan, I can't poke her. I get it, I said, because I did it then. People signed not in a crowd, but one by one. Nate, the landscaper with the pink flamingos, signed with a flourish like he'd been waiting all year. The Millers, with the other hoop, signed the guy. With the perfect lawn. Signed so small, I had to squint. We crossed the line. Tracy stalled. Then scheduled the notice, said to discuss community finances and enforcement procedure. That's how people try to put a lid on a boiling pot. We were the steam, not the lid. The week before the meeting, I took a day off and built a presentation so tight, my old boss would have wept. Jenna tabbed exhibits. We burned the audio to twin USBs and filled chain of custody forms, because paper moves the machine. We printed the LLC filings and the budget pages and the backyard photo with the cousin arm. I practiced until it sounded unpracticed because anger gets dismissed as noise. Gravity gets heard at 700 p.m. The lodge was standing room only. Fresh coffee, nervous deodorant, a county deputy in back just in case Tracy opened with rules in a voice that still believed she owned the room. She gave me 5 minutes, like a mercy, and I thanked her like a neighbor. I held up one neon envelope because you begin where the bleeding started. Then slide 1. The budget pie with the fat CR community. Partners slice a ripple went through the folding chairs. Slide 2. The articles naming Mitchell and the PO. Box slide 3. A clean flowchart. Dues to LLC to a big question mark. Where do we get the benefit? I asked. Smooth and calm, Tracy stood to interrupt. This is out of order. Her voice didn't have the metal it had on my doorstep. Then let's let the president speak for herself, I said. And hit play. You could hear the scrape of a chair, the rustle of papers. Then the line. Legal fees don't matter. We make it back on the liens. A crowd can become one animal with one face, and that face turned. Tracy lunged for the mic and forgot about the lag. hissed sideways to the treasurer she treats like a pet. "He'll regret this. I'll bury him in liens." The hot mic picked it up. The room didn't roar. It froze, which is worse if you're on the wrong side. Walt spoke without raising his voice for the record. That was the president's voice, and that is not the policy we voted for. I slid the recall petition across the table to Section 4. 2A requires a vote. When the threshold is met, the threshold wasn't close. Hands went up like a forest waking. The secretary counted with the same firmness she once used to scold my blue ink. Read the tally into the record. The deputy stepped forward. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me to answer a few questions, Polite." Official Tracy lifted her chin like chins do. When a person has just one move left. She looked at me and said, "This will not stand. You will be very, very sorry. No gavel speech. No fireworks. Just the small, hollow sound of a gold nameplate being picked up off a table, and the realization that a clipboard isn't a crown." I wish I could tell you I felt triumphant. I felt tired in a good way, like after you move a couch up the stairs without taking the door off. I thought about Maddie's hoop, Jenna's steady hands, neighbors who signed when their hands were shaking. And I thought about how I didn't raise my voice. I raised my evidence. I didn't win by being loud. I won by writing down dates and times and amounts, and letting a quiet man with a conscience press record systems drift toward secrecy when nobody is watching. Secrecy breeds little tyrants who talk like spreadsheets and forget the difference between authority and service. You know what I mean, right? So here's the part I want you to hear. In your bones. If you're facing your own. Tracy different blazer. Same energy. Start small. And start. Now photograph the thing. Label the folder. Read the line itself. Not the summary. Somebody waves at you. Knock on the door of the person who understands numbers. Ask your neighbors to sign the paper that feels scary until you're not the only one holding the pen. You will feel petty. Keep going. Petty is a bridge fare. Is on the other side. Now tell me straight. Did recording that audio and playing it in public cross a line, or is that exactly the line you cross? When private pressure turns into public harm. Are HOAs useful guardrails that attract the wrong drivers? Or are they only as fair as the people who show up and vote? Would you rather have a few tacky flamingos or a secret consulting bill? Nobody can explain. Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you're listening from and what you've seen. If you've got your own. HOA horror story. Change the names if you need to, and share it. And if you want more stories where regular people stop getting stepped on and start standing up, hit subscribe. Send this to the neighbor who needs it, and keep your receipts. Justice moves slow, but paper moves it.